popular in churches is like a drummer camera. Right here, you can see that I've got my laptop here. Up here on this side is, again, the Zoom conference and my desktop capture that I'm sharing with the audience. And then right here is my control pad. So these are great for worship leaders and technology hosts of shows to have a little pad here to switch. It could be an iPad or a touchscreen that you can click a button and switch a video camera, for example. A lot of ways that you can use this. Today, we're talking about helping your church live stream. In fact, I happen to have written a book called Helping Your Church Live Stream, and I recently updated it. So it's really kind of needed to be updated because so many houses of worship are learning to communicate online, really necessity being the mother of invention and adaptation being key to survival here. Worship communities spreading the message of God using live streaming, but now more than just live streaming, but two-way communications with software like Zoom video conferencing and a lot more. We've had almost 5 or 6 shows dedicated to this new normal, this COVID-19 era that we're living in right now, and how to adapt from a house of worship perspective. So today, we're answering some of the most asked questions that we got specifically to worship bands and connecting distributed musicians from around the world, but also a complete open-ended Q&A session that you guys are all a part of. So I'm excited to hear what you guys think as well. We're going to be back in just 60 seconds, so hang in, guys. Here we go.
Taking one more breath beside you, so I could find strength to divide us. But this is how we go. Gotta give it up sometimes, let's go. And knowing when to kill your pride. There's no one to blame, nothing really stays the same. This is how we go. Sometimes we hold on to let go.
For some reason, that song never gets old. I don't know. You guys tell me. Welcome to the StreamGeeks Live, helping your church live stream. We've done over 5 shows over the past month and a half, all about helping your church live stream in the COVID-19 era, right? The new normal. How do we adapt? And live streaming has been so important to that, but so has two-way communications, online communities like on Facebook, but also Zoom and many others. And we've been talking to many, many churches, hundreds, thousands of churches, about how to increase the technology capabilities that you have to not just live stream a one-way broadcast, but make the worship experience from home for folks that may even be outside your local community. We've heard so many stories. How do we make that experience more interactive? And churches are finding that their communities are further flung than they ever thought before. And it's really an interesting time, of course, worship and the message of God and so many houses of worship are so crucial in these times of need for everyone to be better connected. And technology this time around is playing a very crucial role in helping us all communicate. So that is what today's show is about. We're joined with many, many guests here on our Zoom conference. So thank you everyone for joining. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. We've got a little waiting room here that folks are waiting into. And I wanted to actually kick this show off, by the way, talking about a new feature in Zoom. If you guys can see this right here, I can zoom into it so you guys can really see this. Something called Zoom bombing has been an issue for us for a very long time. And it's not a huge issue, but it's been a small issue for us because we're doing these great live streams and we're chatting with people. And what we've found is that every once in a while, someone has been breaking into our Zoom sessions and even saying things that are inappropriate. So there's this new security feature here that allows you to report Zoom bombers, okay? And if anyone, I'd love to know if other people in the chat, let us know if this has happened to you. It's happened to us many times. Almost every time that we've live streamed, somehow someone has gotten into this Zoom bombing. So now we're locking our meeting. We have a waiting room. We're not allowing people to rename themselves. We even remove participants. And now Zoom has the ability to actually report a full report saying what the person is doing and what they're doing. So it's interesting that Zoom is doing that. And there's that little admit in the waiting room. So there we go. Just wanted to share that really quickly before we jump into our presentation, because it's likely that you're going to come into something along those lines. Now, I wanted to kick off by saying that Worship Summit Live 3.0, this is our third Worship Summit, is coming up July 22nd. And I'm just so excited about this, partially because we are asking worship leaders and bands to submit their videos, and we will actually pay your church band for music. So we just need to have a brief chat with myself and your team, and we'll actually pay you guys up to $150 to submit 2 to 3 songs for the Worship Summit. So this is coming up July 22nd. It's going to be a really great chance for professional development for church administrators, worship leaders, volunteers, communication leaders in the worship space. And we've got a little bit of a new layout this year. You can obviously chat on the live stream, but you can sign up to be part of the Zoom meeting where we're going to have breakout sessions with our worship leaders and our keynote speakers throughout the day. So we're really excited about bringing kind of a new approach to Worship Summit Live, which has been so successful over the past few years. But now I think with this new approach, it's going to be even better. We're going to have virtual world cafes where we can get into small groups and participate in some really fun activities. And it's going to be a great show. And then the musical performances, I've been getting a few of you guys contacting me. Thank you if you've done so already. If you have a worship band, it's a great way for them to practice their musical skills and get a donation to the church as well. Now, the theme that we've been talking about so much is how do we make the remote participation more interactive? So for the folks out there who are watching your worship services, how do we make it a more interactive and engaging experience? That's been the theme, really. And a lot of you, and I'd love to hear about this, but I'm assuming a lot of you are going to start thinking about having worship services outside. The weather's getting nicer, and weather depending, you may be able to actually live stream and do interactive sessions, but of course have amazing worship outdoors as well. So we'll be talking a little bit more about that as well. We still are able to ship out the Helping Your Church live stream books for free directly to your church. So just go to ptzoptics.com/book and we will mail you a free copy of Helping Your Church live stream, which is a great resource. And the takeaway, one of the underlying messages that we've been talking to a lot of folks about is kind of what you really want to get folks to is spiritual sharing, right? Community engagement. And how do we get there? Well, for a lot of folks, it may end up being they found the live stream on Facebook, and then they were able to upgrade their experience to a Zoom meeting where now they're working with worship leaders. And then we've talked to so many churches that are doing this. They've got a large group now. They've got 100 people in a Zoom meeting. How do we manage that? Well, we break people into smaller groups and we assign worship leaders to each breakout room. And if you have any questions about that, let me know. That was what our last show was on. So there's a whole hour-long tutorial on that where we did a live demonstration. But I truly believe that the two-way communications in Zoom is a very powerful way to keep people connected in their communities, even if we're all dispersed. And then the breakout sessions make it even more personal and allows for, it could be a coffee hour chit chat. It could be a get to know one another moment. It could be, there's a lot of team building exercises that could happen. And it could be something as special and intimate as spiritual sharing. So that was kind of the show takeaways that we've built up to over our last couple shows. So we're going to recap the last couple shows. I have a new presentation today on how to connect distributed worship bands and musicians together. Then we'll do a little bit of group sharing and Q&A. And if we feel the need to, we do have the ability to do those breakout sessions. So today we're talking about worship bands working remotely. How do we connect the drummer with the singer, with the piano player? And obviously we've tried it with Zoom, and Zoom is not built for that. Zoom has just a little bit too much latency for a whole band to be able to play music together. It's difficult because everything becomes out of sync, but there is a solution, luckily. Now, before we dig into that, I just want to make sure everyone gets a kind of a recap. We talked to Michael Begeman from the Harmonious Church in Austin, Texas, and he was telling us how important it was for his church to use Zoom meetings, to have those special breakout rooms and those intimate, little bit more communicative spaces, and then Zoom webinar and live streaming for the one-way broadcast. And he brought a lot of great information to us about what it means to be a worship leader and a good Zoom moderator, not only to protect your meetings against folks who might be Zoom bombers, which luckily Zoom has put in a lot of great tools to help with that, but how to host those more intimate spiritual sharing sessions. And then we talked about going beyond two-way communications, and we answered some of the questions that have arisen as we've done these shows about how to bring Zoom and the Zoom participants into a worship space, and simply allowing the pastor and the worship leaders to speak directly to the interactive Zoom session. So many pastors and worship leaders have said, there's a great conversation going on in our Zoom conference. How do we let the people that are in the church start to hear that? Because there's going to be a slow migration as we relax the social distancing, and there will be a lot of folks that are still at home, and how can we allow the interactivity? So we talked all about that, and how to set up your digital audio mixer to be able to let people speak back and forth, and it's not as difficult as it may seem. After that, we talked about tips for online worship and small group sharing, and then the next week we really dug into Zoom breakout sessions. So as you can see here, it's been a full month and a half of how to help your church live stream. And today is a little bit of a finale because we're going to really open it up to Q&A and answer this top question that we've been getting quite a bit. I don't know if you guys know this, but a lot of people have been asking about how do we set up our streams here and our graphics. So you can get these graphics at streamgeeks.us/church, and it just shows you kind of how we set them up. You can also get this entire PowerPoint and all the other PowerPoints at our blog, streamgeeks.us/blog. Okay, so the first solution that I think a lot of folks have heard about, but maybe aren't familiar with, is called Jamulus. And Jamulus is a solution that allows you to bring multiple musicians together on a server with very low latency. They claim about 10 to 20 milliseconds of latency, which is less than the blink of an eye, and it's much less than Zoom. And it's designed to let people jam together, whether you have a drummer, a piano player, and a musician. And it's a pretty good tool. I was using it, and I will say that it's great and it's free, but it's a little bit technical to set up. In fact, you need to get your own server to use this. And I found it quite difficult to even wrap my head around how does that server even work. So I was looking at this and I was trying to put together a tutorial, and I said, this is great for the technical folks who know what they're doing and want to set up a server. But what about the non-technical folks who are just musicians and volunteers and just want to get started? And I found a website called CleanFeed, and it actually comes recommended to me from my friend Doug Laws at the Keys Vineyard Church, who was actually the finale. He's a just amazing worship leader from the Florida Keys. And he said, Paul, CleanFeed is free. Now you have to pay to get some of the more advanced features, but it works perfectly, and the web-based interface is so easy that he had to recommend it to me. This is what it looks like, and I can actually log right into CleanFeed right now to show you how easy it is. So it's cleanfeed.com, and you just log right in to get started. It's going to ask me for my password, and I'm going to go ahead and say okay, and then you're in. And it asks to use your microphone, and you can see there that it's working. It's been a great tool to play with. I've been using it quite a bit, and I have to say that it's perfectly easy for anyone to use. You click this little connect button, and that simply allows you to invite a friend. So you put the person's name in. I'm not set up to do a live demonstration right now, but maybe I'll invite Julia Sherwin, and then there's some advanced options here for inviting them. And essentially, you can invite people to join this session. You can record the session, and it's just audio and video share. Sorry, no video, just audio sharing. So the idea here is that you can get all of your musicians together. They can record songs together via the internet. Okay, and getting back to the presentation here, super easy to use. And then if you'd like to sign up for the pro version, which, to be honest, I can't remember exactly how much the pro version is. Let's see what it says. How much is pro? Didn't really say. Let's see, sign up. For the pro version costs, $34 a month. So it's $34 a month, which is pretty reasonable for what it is. You get some extra features for multi-track recording, which could be very nice for post-production and editing later. Extra microphones and local devices you can use. And then it all boils down to, okay, Paul, so this is great, but we still want to share it with Zoom. Well, then you want to do a simulated live video sharing. So, basically you can play the audio that you've recorded with your distributed musicians into Zoom. And there's a couple different ways that you can do that inside of Zoom. My favorite way to do it, and we have a great tutorial on this, is to use OBS or use something like vMix to pump the audio directly into Zoom. But as I was saying this and thinking about it, I do think that the easiest way as well is you can click the share screen button here, and you see where it says files. You can literally just choose the file, the audio file, and then all your musicians can still join in and sing along to a track that's totally in sync. So you can pair that with video, but that is essentially the idea. Until everyone can get back together in one room, that is the way that it works. So that's my presentation for today. It's only 2:16, so we've got a ton of time for Q&A with you guys. So I'm excited to jump into the Q&A session. I hope that was pretty well explained. There is more detailed information about how to connect Zoom and OBS on our blog. We did a really good demonstration of how to connect Zoom with OBS and how to connect vMix with Zoom. And I'm working on one for Wirecast as well. But that would allow you to very easily pump the audio in. And then, of course, you can just use the Zoom sharing tools. So I'm excited to open this up to Q&A. Let's see here. Here's the chat room. Okay, Paul, on Zoom, you're sharing the Worship Summit live stream. Would you like to share it full screen? Okay, I see. Bob is from Kansas City, Missouri. Hi, Bob. Are there any other questions, Julia, in there? Sorry, I can't read them all.
No, I don't see any questions right now. We just had a comment about, the Zoom bombing. It's been an issue with Teams and Skype as well and other platforms. Did have a question if we're doing any kind of giveaway today?
We will be on Wednesday. And I wanted to do one actually. Maybe we'll start on next Monday. I'm not prepared for that today, but I'd like to. start doing that on our Monday shows. This is kind of the finale Q&A for our worship-centric, not that we won't do more, but we're going to actually move to virtual tickets in a little bit of a different style. So we covered a lot of stuff in the past month, so we wanted to have a live Q&A to make sure that everyone got their questions answered.
And
Looks like
Dean also has a question, Paul. He wanted to for you to tell the group about the screen template URL again. I'm not exactly sure what he's referring to. I can unmute you though, Dean, if you want to ask that question of Paul.
Yeah, no, it's just what Paul mentioned earlier. I think I wrote down streamgeeks.us/church. Is that correct?
let me double check. That should be it. And if it's not, then it's streamgeeks.us/two-way. But let's see, /church. Yep, that's
Perfect.
it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yep,
I
no
suppose I
problem.
should have just clicked on that myself. Thanks.
No, it was a good question. Thanks, Dean.
I'm getting a couple questions from the chat. I wanted to mention to Amanda, she said she did not get the Zoom email for the Zoom this week. And Amanda, if you email julia.sherwin@ptzoptics.com, she'll send it to you. I apologize. You have to go to streamgeeks.us/show to get that on the list because we're sending out a few less emails. Okay, here's one. With Clean Feed and Zoom together, would it be possible to literally do music together in picture and sound? With Clean Feed and Zoom together, it is possible to take the output of Clean Feed and bring them into Zoom. I haven't tested that. I think that there could be a little bit of an issue regarding lip sync, but the idea of Clean Feed is that it doesn't have video. So it is possible. I think there might be a little bit of audio delay in Zoom, but at least the audio itself would be in sync. So I do think that's possible. And then Evan is asking about using Clean Feed for recording the audio tracks. That's the idea. That's what it was designed for. I love trying to hack together two different applications to make something happen that was new and different. But ideally, I do think that it's designed for a small group of musicians to get together, record those tracks, and then, the tracks are recorded. Now we pump them into Zoom as well. And I've seen so many churches do this where they're putting together and I'd love to ask this question to folks in the Zoom session today, but I think what most churches are doing is simulated live broadcasts, or at least many, recording things with a small team of musicians in a physical location, and then recording those tracks and then just broadcasting them on Sunday. Well, you can record them and broadcast them on Sunday on YouTube and Facebook. You can also pump that video right into Zoom as well. So that's really your choice. And it gets to be an interesting idea because, many of us have been live streaming to YouTube and Facebook exclusively for quite some time because we like that, because lots of people can watch. But as we've kind of learned over the past 4 to 5, 6 weeks, that we're looking for more two-way communication. We want to see each other. We want to see the families that we, are in our community. And through that need, we've been using Zoom more. So there's no reason why you couldn't pump the audio and video from your church directly into Zoom. And then when the YouTube and Facebook streams are kind of over, you've still got your community inside of Zoom where you can have continue that two-way communication, which I think is the best of both worlds that we kind of been doing lately. So are we getting some more questions in there, Julia?
Let me see. Jim, I think, may have a question for you. Let me go and unmute him.
Hi, Jim.
Jim, you with us?
Hi guys, how you doing?
Good.
Hi.
So my challenge is we're a pretty tech challenged congregation, and we have a number of users or attendees who don't have internet, and so they want to be able to call in and, if nothing else, just hear the audio feed from our Sunday stream. Now we're still pre-recording at this point, but at some point we'd like to go live. And right now it requires a staff member, usually me, to go ahead and have a separate Zoom feed running during the service and allow them to call in via Zoom. My challenge with that is it's one more thing that I'm juggling on a Sunday morning, but it's also has the potential for somebody to audio bomb it, because we do put that number up on the front page of the website and send it out in our e-news. Any other thoughts? Any other options?
Yes. Well, first of all, I think that you're doing a good thing by connecting the opportunity for people to join via Zoom to your live stream, because, this is going to be a transitional time where, there's going to be folks who have underlying conditions and things of that nature where not everyone's just going to rush into church when they're allowed to. There's going to be a time of 2 or 3 years possibly where there's going to be distributed community members who can't make it. And obviously the live stream is great for that. But I think what we've learned over the past 3 to 4 weeks is that the Zoom conference offers, and I didn't even, honestly, Jim, I wasn't even thinking about the audio conferencing version, which is another important feature that Zoom offers. So as far as the audio coming from your service into Zoom, it sounds like you have that figured out, right? Jim? I don't know if Jim got muted again, but it sounds to me, Jim, like you have the audio coming from your church's audio mixing board, or yeah, I think Jim's muted. Let's unmute him if that's okay. Where's Jim? There he is. Okay.
Yeah, I'm back on now. Sorry about that. I just have the habit of muting myself. So what we do is we have a stream running. Usually our Facebook stream is the one that runs first. And I just have Zoom watching that stream and play it out to Zoom. And then our folks who are calling by telephone just call in, use the meeting ID and password, and then they just listen on their phone. But even that's challenging for some. And it's one more thing that I have to do sitting here in my little hole in my basement on a Sunday morning, having that running while I'm getting ready to host adult education and things like that. I'm just looking for any other options that maybe somebody else had solved the problem a different way.
Well, I'm so glad you said that, because Zoom is becoming kind of that like Swiss Army knife tool, and I was not considering the audio conferencing capabilities. Now, as far as somebody audio bombing your audio only, output of your worship service, I want to once again cut to this new security feature inside of Zoom, which we've covered a couple times because of how powerful it is. Let's see, is it this one here? So there's this little security button here. You can click it, and of course you can lock the meeting. That's not necessarily good when you're trying to let people join. So you probably would have that unlocked. We have it locked now because we have 30 participants in this room, and we don't want to run the risk of getting Zoom bombed right now because we're in the midst of a very productive meeting. So we're being proactive about keeping the Zoom bombers out at this point. But you can basically go to the participants tab over here, and you can mute all, okay, which is what I did at the beginning of this meeting. And when you're done muting all, I guess you guys can't see that. Let me come to here. When you're done muting all, you can allow or not allow people to unmute themselves. So because we have the meeting locked, I'm going to go ahead and click that button that says allow participants to unmute themselves. So if you'd like to, please be responsible and feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question. So if you have that off, then you shouldn't have an issue regarding having other people Zoom bomb your audio. Does that make sense, Jim?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, and that's what we're doing right now. I'm really just looking for one less thing to monitor on a Sunday morning. So yeah,
Yeah, no, I see
it's a
what you're
really good
saying.
point.
You know, and I get it. Some people don't have internet. I'm trying to think of a better alternative, and you know, there is something called like free conference call, but it's still going to be a step that you're going to have to take. And I think that Zoom is a good one because it allows people to maybe continue a conversation after the service is over. And you may find, as many churches have told us, that it becomes a useful tool for keeping the community connected online.
Right. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Yeah, so Jim and Paul, I can add to that. I share maybe the lack of an answer, that lack of a complete solution, but free conference call is fundamentally no different than Zoom. You've got to give a meeting ID and a passcode if you set that up and so on. And I really like the idea of everybody coming into the Zoom platform. I think just again, seeds to plant. One thing to be concerned about is that when people dial in, when people connect in like we are right now, you can see my name or whatever I decide to put down, within my window. When people dial in, their phone number is shown there. And so that is a potential privacy thing that you might want to think a little bit about. But the only thing I can come up with in terms of everybody kind of joining up an audio party line would be, number one, with no security, it would just be kind of a conference call line. And number two, that's probably pretty darn expensive. I'm sure there's commercial services like that where you can, everybody can dial in and listen to, the rock concert of the day or whatever it is, but that's got to be expensive. And again, you talk about less things to manage. I'm all about simplicity and focusing in Zoom and maybe helping teach people that you got to enter in a password or a meeting ID and a pound key. That's probably something they can overcome.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. Does free conference call hide the phone number or not?
That. In fact, that's interesting. So free conference call, the user, I was going to say the viewer, but the user would have to punch in the passcode, but then they're joined to a party line, just kind of a group audio hub, and then you as the church would dial into free conference call. So you're correct; they would not show their phone number in the Zoom part of it, the visual Zoom part of it. So that may be a good solution. And I don't know what the limits are on free conference call, if it's 50 or 100 or what. We could look that up pretty quick.
A note on adding some simplicity to the dial-in complexity. For some folks, if we email the invitation out with the audio dial-in phone number immediately followed by 2 commas for pauses, followed by the conference room ID number, that turns in on a mobile device, that turns into a one-touch dial. It's a hyperlink. They touch it once and it dials the whole thing for you. And so that would probably be the simplest way to get the challenged in there.
Wow, I really
Nice. Cool.
like that. Thank you, Jeff, because we could use that even for this type of a conference call where we want folks to be able to join in via audio.
Nice. What's that solution called again?
Are you talking about the freeconferencecall.com solution that was referenced?
Yeah, the one you just talked about, that is free conference call or no?
Yeah, well, that's, you can provide that in an iPhone. When you're typing in a phone number and a contact, even if you typed in my phone number, I think it's the bottom left key that lets you type in special characters and one says pause and it inserts a comma and then another comma, and about 2 commas is usually creates enough pause, then followed by the numbers to then continue to input for a conference room number or whatnot. So it's really a mobile device feature that if you're aware of it, you can send a simple email formatted with no spaces, just number, comma, numbers, and the phone will auto dial everything for them.
Yeah, and Timothy just wrote this in the comments, but just so people aren't reading the comments, when you do a Zoom invitation, it actually comes out, that's listed down there in the bottom. It's called a mobile dial-in or something like that.
Right.
So
Art and we love our congregation. They're phenomenal. but the folks that are struggling are really struggling technologically. And so even just the, the point where they have to hit pound and put in the second number, it's a struggle. And these are elderly folks. It's a big challenge for them. So.
Well, but are you emailing them the phone number to dial?
We are. That's right.
And if they're email in their telephone, as long as in that email the phone number you provide is a phone number, conference room number, all they have to do is take their finger on that email and touch that number, and it's a one-touch experience for them. So
that's right.
They don't actually have to leverage the keypad that I was referencing. That was just a reference that the feature
my end
kind of built into phones.
Well,
that's a great idea.
The ones that don't have email, we put the conference call information in our newsletter, which gets mailed to them in a clip out, because the ones that don't have email also mostly have flip phones.
Yep, fair enough.
Yeah, we have similar issues.
I'm Tim from Downingtown, Pennsylvania. One of my members does call into our Zoom, and she and her husband are in the late 70s. They have no gadgets, no internet, no cable, no cell phones, no flip phones. They call in on a landline of old, and she has taught other people in our congregation how to call in and do that. And she tells them it's real simple. We have sent out to those that we know don't have internet or cell phones or that type media, as the passcode and the dial in for them, and we've been successful with that. We haven't had people struggling with that.
And on the other end, are most of you then using, are you using your stream? Are you connecting? Are you guys doing live services and then connecting just through a call in out of your board, or how are you connecting to that?
We're just taking it out of our sound system. Ours is actually going into a headset jack on a voice over IP phone. And our plan has conference calling in it. That's how we're doing it.
Yeah, we come out of our board into an iRig 2 into the little lightning bolt, because it's an iPhone lightning bolt adapter into the phone, and the phone next to the soundboard's dialed into the conference line, and everybody else does, and we're the feed and they're the listeners at that point. So. And can I add, it's a slight distraction, but it's so similar in technology in drive-in services. I don't know how many here have done them or whatnot, but I see it constantly on groups out there that we want to do a drive-in service. Does anybody have or know where to buy an FM transmitter? And every time I read that, I'm like, why does the mention of a drive-in service in 2020 have to take us back to the 70s with an FM signal? And the fact is this same phone that we're talking about that can easily be connected to our audio mixer to feed an audio conference line is the same phone number they could dial from their their mobile phone in their vehicle, which is already connected to their Bluetooth. And they sit in the parking lot and they listen inside their vehicle while you either broadcast directly into your phone or through a microphone that's connected and feeding through the board itself. I just wanted to mention that as well.
Do you run into any issues where people on two different phone networks have differences in latency or lag?
Well, I guess that's always possible, but it's minuscule compared to trying. Some people go, oh, just give them the Facebook new dial-in number now. It's like, no, you can't do that. You could be talking and they could hear you 20, 30 seconds later, right? That doesn't work. The little bit of disconnect, a little bit of latency, that's possible. But, that's one of those things. I saw one post that said, how can we display slides in a drive-in service as well? It's like, come on, drive-ins showed movies at night for a reason, because the sun went down. And so there's just certain challenges that we throw out at ourselves that that really kind of break the rules. And so, yeah, you certainly could have some latency between different providers, but those are things I try to tend to do the best we can in those things within my circle of control, and that one I couldn't control, right?
It's such a great perspective, Jeff, because it's true. Some things are just simply out of our absolute control. We don't have control over them. I am surprised how excited everyone is about audio only. That was something that I didn't really consider how important that is, and it's built right into Zoom. Does anyone know, did you have to pay extra for audio conferencing capabilities beyond the professional license?
No, I pay that $15 a month subscription for Zoom, and it always includes phone numbers, so it works just fine.
So it's just the maximum number of participants is where you're kind of maxing out there, but otherwise all the audio conferencing is included.
Yeah, and if you max out the participants, I mean, either for free or a friendly $4 a month donation at freeconferencecall.com, I think their number is like 1,000 participants versus 100 on Zoom on that smaller subscription.
Yeah. Yeah, because once you get up to like 1,000 meeting participants in Zoom, you're really starting to pay, $50, $100 a month, I believe. Well, that's really interesting. I'm going to have to revisit some of that thinking now regarding how important audio conferencing is to the online experience for so many people. Well, I guess if that's all, if there's any other questions, we're here for a little bit more, but that was really exciting. I'm glad we covered that because it's something, and thank you so much for the tip there, because I didn't realize how easy you can make it for the one-touch push.
Hey, Paul, Hal has been waiting patiently. He's just getting acquainted with some of the different streaming platforms and was curious which one would be best. So if you're able to unmute yourself, Hal, you can feel free to ask that question.
Hi, thanks.
Sure.
I'm still trying to prove to myself that a choice of certain components is what I really want to do. And among them, of course, is the streaming service. And I've been using the Decast service, which works fine, but it's one of many. And I'm wondering if other participants in this meeting are using other products or maybe also using Decast for their streaming service and might have some advice. Don't everybody speak at once.
Well, I mean, I could kick it off by saying that obviously Decast is a premium streaming service, right? So it has value that it adds above and beyond what Facebook and YouTube offer for free, right? So Facebook and YouTube, you can live stream to them for free, and they have their own set of values. For example, on Facebook, if you're live streaming on Facebook, you can use that social media network to reach your congregation, right? And Decast generally is something that you put on your website, which is nice. You can put it on your website and it's always there. But my personal recommendation would be, if you're going to stream to Decast, you should also stream to at least Facebook, because Facebook is so powerful from an exposure perspective to get you connected with people. Folks can check in on Facebook to show their friends that they're at church. And then that's how kind of people can share. It's very shareable. So you can share it with your friends and family if something moves you. And so that social media network with, 2.34 billion people on it is worth tapping into, because I've heard over and over again from churches that they had a service and it was shared many times and they had thousands of viewers, more than they thought they would have. So I think, don't forget about Facebook. I do think Decast is great, and there's a lot of value of the service that they provide. But I think if we had to poll everybody right now, which we could actually do, that might be interesting. Why don't we do a poll? What live streaming I would say CDN are you using? Let's do a poll real quick and see what people think. But I would say most people are probably going to say Facebook. So we'll say Facebook, YouTube. Sorry, go ahead.
We use Facebook right now.
Okay.
But we're just doing it from a smartphone. And it's not integrated with the Dante sound system that we have at church, or with cameras like PTZ Optics cameras. So we're trying to move from the configuration that we're using now to something a little more, call it professional, but a different one. And in addition, and I certainly don't dispute, I'm going to respond to your questionnaire. I certainly don't dispute the value of Facebook. We're using it, like I say, and it's been extremely good. And one of the nicest things about it is it tells you how many people are watching the stream live. It's a very handy little parameter to have in the upper left-hand corner. But we did want to stream it on our church website, and so that's led us to a streaming service. I've also streamed from vMix to YouTube, so we could do that as well. But other than the free services, I'm exploring what it takes to put it on the church site. And that's why we get.
If you do live stream to YouTube, you can embed that onto the church website.
Right. Yes, I agree. But one way or the other, we have to embed it on the church website. So if I could just go from DeCast to the website straight, that's easy.
No, that's good. I mean, DeCast is good. DeCast, also has extra features that allow you for branding purposes. So once your stream is over on DeCast, it's not like YouTube where they're going to get recommendations from other churches or other videos that aren't necessarily, with DeCast, you have a lot more control.
And you can control the appearance of the window.
Mm-hmm.
With Facebook, you're just one of many Facebook videos that are already on our particular site. There must be 20 or 30 videos on there, and on a Sunday morning, you have to figure out which one is the new one.
Mm-hmm.
So it offers some mechanical struggles. And as a matter of fact, one of our parishioners sent me an email after the service saying, I could not get to see the service on Facebook. What happened? I went to the proper place and so on and so forth. And I said, well, all you need to do is to refresh your screen, refresh the site. And I got an email back from her. What does refresh mean? It goes back to Jim's question here earlier, or Jim's point earlier. You just can't assume anything. The power switch is enough of a challenge.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I'm interested to see the results of this poll here that I think are coming in. Looks like Facebook is 71%. YouTube is 86%, and then 7% is DeCast, and 14% is Vimeo, which is what I expected. With it being free, YouTube and Facebook obviously become a first choice, but you're right. I mean, DeCast has a lot of great features for branding perspective and integrations. Vimeo is another nice option, which includes a bit more of a landing page. In fact, you can even get an app, I believe, with Vimeo. Once you get that app on the viewer's phone, it's just that one place for them to go. There's no other distractions like Facebook and YouTube have.
I'll check that out. Thank you. Oh, that's great.
No,
Could I ask a different question? Other people wanted to add to this one.
I'd like to add something if I could.
Go for it.
Like the cast, I've been a big proponent of Wowza, because one of the things I like about Wowza, a lot with my church clients, is that I can take them off of the platforms like YouTube and other things which pump other people's ads onto there and pump a lot of other things, and also allow the church people to actually migrate away from it. by having a Wowza, you can create your own portal that's on your paywall, that's behind your paywall window. So you can actually bring them into your church website, stream from your church website, keep them in your church website. And the people who, and you can't have people who log in, because everyone who signs up it's assigned to their MAC address. So they can't like give the code to somebody else and stuff like that. So it keeps it in your community. And then it's very, very easy to migrate. You don't see any branding or marketing other than what you give them. So a lot of churches don't like to see other branding, because what would you rather see right in the middle of your service pops up, an ad for something that birth control or something like that may not be a message that your church wants to show up. So by bringing it into your church, hiding it behind and building your church brand, because a lot of things what other churches do is they'll put their ads on your YouTube site, because you can actually do it. You can say, I want to promote my church while other churches are going on. So it keeps that within your four walls of your church. And Wowza is kind of like the Cast, but we love it. We use it a lot. They have a lot of great products, like their Clearcaster that we have here in our studio that we use a lot. I know Paul has talked about their products, but I love Wowza and I promote Wowza a lot.
Thank you.
And there's this added, it's always that first interview question when I help groups out, what's the purpose, right? What the why? Why do we want to broadcast? And there's that why that Paul mentioned earlier, is that might include reach. And that's where the social platforms really become a benefit for reach. But if the answer to the why doesn't include reach as much as private invite and availability to each and every member or anybody they invite, and it's more of a private distribution, then like was just mentioned, it's exactly what you want it to be, adless and so forth. But this is part of a question. It's not my active knowledge. I happen to broadcast to our own private CDN, but that our church built and owns. But with that, I'm asking, does Wowza and the others help? And I don't mean this in a illegal way, but I think there's this area between, hey, you shouldn't be broadcasting that movie or that music to the masses because that's a copyright infringement. But there's this gray area that a lot of us have contended with, and that is getting clipped and muted and notified when we hold our CCLI licenses and so forth. And it's still we're still all at the mercy of YouTube's and Facebook's decision making on the fly of whether they're going to allow that music, whether it's live or pre-recorded, or whether you have a license or not. And it just happens and it interrupts. When it's a live stream, that's unaffordable, right? The moment's missed because it was a live stream. So I don't know if anybody online knows, do the other platforms help lighten that high level scrutiny of inaccurate false positives on copyright infringements?
So Jeff,
That is
that's
a great question.
observation. I was going to say that that's a great observation, and I think something you need to be conscious of legally. And then where are the automated tools? And you're exactly right. The Facebooks and YouTubes have no idea what kind of contracts you have. And so they can come in and mute or certainly bother you, whether they're bothering the viewers or not, depends on the platform and the circumstances. We use, and you touched on a second thing, which I want to speak to as well, which is the whole thing of purpose. My general recommendation, and this is just my experience, I don't know Wowza, but I use Vimeo for professional broadcasting. And Vimeo is not about the social network. It's more about, they really know how to broadcast video. And so you don't have to deal with like many of us did, 2 or 3 years ago, where it's like, oh, you need one for this size and this resolution and this bandwidth. Vimeo takes care of all that, and YouTube and Facebook do for the most part as well. But I believe in putting this video up on your website and making it easier to find. So it's go to mychurch.com, and it's easy to find there because you've made it the top thing on the screen. When you're using Vimeo, there are no ads, but there's far less of that social stuff too. So you need to balance that maybe with a share link that you've put down below. It says share this with your neighbors or with Johnny or Paul or whoever that you're not seeing or hearing from today. You also made an interesting comment about the why, and I think we need to think in terms of why in the context of what transition we're going through right now, which is we're in one right now where not everybody's going to virtual church that was going to in-person church. And I think we need to be thinking about how do we reconnect with the former church body and bit by bit get them engaged and balance that with how do we continue the outreach, which all of us have, which is engaging, new viewers and so on. So you need to really kind of sort that through in terms of priorities, make it easy both ways. Somebody mentioned over in the chat, Restream. Restream is a platform that allows you to stream once and it gets repeated out to multiple places like Vimeo and YouTube and Facebook all at the same time. So they take care of that repeating, that splitting of the stream. But for the core church people, maybe the people less sophisticated, they just go to mychurchwebsite.com and the stream is there. Those that are to run around mobile that are a third of my age, great. Let them watch on some other platform, whatever they're comfortable with. I can't watch stuff on a phone that's that big. I gotta watch on my monitor. So we need to have something for everybody. Look at these glasses. That's what they're for. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You've mentioned a couple times people have mentioned copyright or the legalities of various aspects of this. And back when I used to videotape our church service at a different church, we would then hand carry the tape down to the community television facility and give it to them, the header and a footer on it, and they would broadcast it several times during the week. It obviously is old school technology compared to today, but people in nursing homes and other people who are shut in oftentimes don't have a computer to use to access some church service, but they have a television. And the community television worked, it was extremely popular throughout the town. That was sort of an aside, but the legal side of things that I wanted to ask a question about was that when we did videotape, we were told to be very careful that we did not videotape anybody's face other than the church staff. So I'm wondering whether that kind of a legal situation has gone by the boards with the lack of privacy we all have nowadays, or whether that's still something that somebody could make an issue of.
When we've done events in the past, we've done church events where we've done actually conferences. The rule is that if you generally notify people beforehand and have a signage that people either see online and click an OK on, or if you have them at an event and it's a sign that says you're okay, as long as a general audience, because you can use audio and video to live stream or to broadcast. The only time when you have to have an actual sign-off notification is if it is a panel or somebody who's being interviewed. At that point, legally, you have to have them sign a waiver of use to utilize their stuff. In the news media, if you're using it for broadcast, you have 30 days of fair use for crowd. So if you're a news media and you shoot a crowd, you have 30 days to use that crowd, because you're obviously, if you're shooting the people who are protesting right now outside, you obviously can't get those people to sign off or people to people to know that they're being broadcasted. So fair use is you have 30 days of fair use to use that, and that's a rule at the FCC rule is you have, if you're a broadcaster, you have 30 days of fair use of any content if it's a crowd situation. So in any situation, you can say, I have fair use because it's a crowd. If it's people who come in and pay for, or come into your church or building or broadcast, you have to let them know by having them sign off, or have them. You have to know that they saw the sign. So if the sign is visible to everybody, that's fair use. But if they're being interviewed, then you have to have a waiver that says certain legal things, technically.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to that you know, it's come up before, and a couple other things you can do is obviously in your bulletins, let people know when and which services are being live streamed. I know a church in Fairhope, Alabama, that literally has a line going down the aisle that says, you know, if you pass this line, you might actually get on camera. If you're back this line, you won't, because they don't know, maybe a member is in not secret service, but protective custody and doesn't want to be on camera. So definitely, and I think this is normal, but don't live stream every service, right? If there's people who want to be on go attend a service that's not being live streamed, they should have the option to. But that's all the time we have today, everybody. Thank you so much for being part of this. It's not like the last show that we're going to do. We're going to still be back on Monday. We're going to be switching gears a little bit, though. So keep in touch. And it looks like we have some more great ideas for upcoming shows. But that's our hour. Thank you so much for joining, everybody. It's been a lot of fun.